we still have some time before I go through the presentation. I'm answering some questions here with the people who are in person. So I'm answering some of the questions through a story. This is with regard to how do we deal with the existential questions, like the meaning and purpose of life. So I'm going to tell a story and then bring the scientific angle too, because again, science is about commonality. It's not just for some people, it's for all of us. And existential questions is not after you get this gray hair. And when you kind of answer at this young age, you can be happier and not be afraid and not be anxious about the future. Whatever we have, we'll be able to enjoy what we have. So this is a story about Rama. Rama when he was a teenager. I know you have heard, but we can keep listening to the stories again and again and again. They're kids at heart. And I'm grandma at heart, grandma's story, you can think. And then so this is the story of Rama when he was a teenager, probably about 13 or 14, before Rama went away to help Vishwamitra to kill the demons when Vishwamitra does the yaga. Even before Vishwamitra came to Dasharatha to ask for Rama and Lakshmana to go help them. He was hardly either a preteen or an early teen, and Rama loses interest, just like what you said. He's a prince. He has everything in the palace. He doesn't have any interest either in anything with dance or music or food or clothing or grooming for that matter. And if I saw Rama at that stage, I would say Rama has clinical depression. He loses interest in life. Can you imagine a teen, a preteen? And of course, Dasharatha is so much concerned. He does not know what to do.
He's an incarnation and so he has struggled.
Yeah, but Dasharatha does know this about incarnation. Yes, but when we come with this body, we have to go through not just bodily things like what Ramakrishna and Ramana have gone through with cancer, but also at the mind level. But they go through with a difference, that's all, not like what we go through. They go through this to show us and to make us understand what we can learn from them. That is the difference. So Rama is completely, totally disinterested in everything. No matter what Dasharatha does, nothing helps. So at that time, Vishwamitra tells Dasharatha, you know what? You need to bring Vasishtha Muni. He is the only one who can help. So Dasharatha brings Vasishtha Muni and asks him to help. And then Vasishtha Muni tells this story to Rama. Imagine, this is a thought experiment. Imagine. The more you imagine with lot of colors and using all different senses, it makes more of an impact. Some neuroscience there. So Vasishtha Muni is going in the forest, walking in the forest. And behind him is a being. I just say being, not a human being, because as soon as I say human being, we have one head, two hands, two legs, right? But he's a being with several heads, with double the number of hands for that many number of heads. And in each hand, this being has a weapon. Again, left to your imagination. You can imagine whichever weapon, starting with the needle to an AKA gun, whatever you can imagine. And this being takes this weapon, hits its head with that hand and keeps on crying, oh, I'm suffering and I'm suffering. And it stops for a while, takes another weapon, hits its head, and then keeps crying out loud, oh, I am suffering and I am suffering. And Vasishtha Muni turns around and says, why are you doing this? You're hitting yourself. Stop hitting yourself. You're going to be fine. And this being, do you think it would listen to Vasishtha Muni? It does not. It keeps it. And Vasishtha Muni says, why he should bother? If he's not listening, he goes his way in the forest. But this being still follows Vasishtha Muni. And then he's going, and all of a sudden there is a well, because it is so busy hitting itself and then crying out loud that it's suffering, doesn't, it falls down in the well. Falls down in, oh, I'm suffering and I'm suffering. Earlier I was suffering in the light, now I'm suffering in the dark. And Vasishtha Muni just ignores and walks away. But this being wants to follow Vasishtha Muni somehow or other, tries so hard with lot of self-effort. It gets out of the well and then starts following Vasishtha Muni. After a while, the forest opens up and there's a lot of fruit-laden trees and then running water, sweet water. And then, oh, it says, oh, the fruits. And it throws away weapons from some of the hands and then grabs the fruits and starts eating the fruit. And Vasishtha Muni finally said, it didn't even listen to me. At least it got some fruits. It's going to be fine. As soon as it thinks like that, it is eating fruit with one hand in one mouth, the other hand, and so many heads and so many hands with so many weapons. The other weapon. Oh, I'm suffering and I'm suffering. It goes like that. And at that time, Vasishtha Muni imparts some knowledge to this being. At that time, something clicks. It stops resisting. It clicks and then it starts listening to Vasishtha Muni. As it is listening, it's throwing all the weapons and even many of the hands fall off, and then it just gets the gyan. And at that time, Vasishtha Muni says to Rama, do you know who this being is? And Rama scratches his head and says, no, I have not seen this being all my life. I've met so many people. I don't know who this being is. And at that time, Vasishtha Muni says, you know what? This being is in you, in me, and in everybody else. Is nothing but our mind. Now let's go back and start with the story. What are those weapons? Can you tell me what those weapons are?
Ants.
Ants? Huh?
Thoughts.
Thoughts? Just thoughts?
Anger.
What kind of thoughts? Harmful thoughts. Sometimes positive thoughts could be harmful. False positives, right? Thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our memories, and our experiences, the way we interpreted them. And the reality, the way we want it to be, it is not. So all these things are our weapons. And when everything is fine, in the light we suffer. And in the dark, we fall into the well. In the dark, of course, we're going to suffer. When we have everything, when we suffer, if we have some problems, we suffer. But somehow we put effort and then we climb up the well and come out with our own effort. We keep putting that effort. And then, especially for us Indians, we have suddenly a festival or a birthday party to go to, right? It is like eating a fruit. We enjoy. But at the same time, so many weapons. We keep beating ourselves and we suffer. It was not ready to listen to Vasishtha Muni in the beginning. We have to be ready. That is what the story yesterday about emptying the teacup comes about here. When we are ready, then we will be able to learn. That does not mean we should not question. We have to question to make sure we understand properly. We should question to understand, because sometimes I get youngsters, they question to know. How much do you know? They question to see whether the person knows or not. That's not how to. We need to question to learn. To get rid of the doubts, we need to question. That is when we'll be ready. So at that moment, the second time, Vasishtha Muni imparts some knowledge, that being was ready. And then it can be sudden, it's gone. How do we remove darkness? All we need to do is to strike a lamp, right? It does not matter how much dark it was and how long it has been dark. It doesn't matter. It could be for ages. Even a little bit of light will bring that knowledge. Now, how do we remove darkness? Only through light. But this kind of light, sometimes we need to keep lighting again and again and again until we have something burning all the time. And then that intensity, if it increases, then the room can be quite big, and then we can expel the darkness. So even Rama had these existential questions. He had everything, did not know. And Rama was ready. That is when whatever the Gyan gave, Vasishtha Muni gave the Gyan to that being, is nothing but the scripture called Yoga Vasishtha. It's one of the biggest scriptures, I think 55,000 shlokas, something like that. Very, very big scriptural book. But the same thing, we try and do it in a scientific way without bringing so much of scriptural knowledge, because we get even more doubts with the scriptural knowledge. We cannot just accept the scriptural knowledge. We're all too analytical. That does not mean we need to just absorb through faith. That's not what I'm saying. Nobody will say. Even Ramakrishna said, you question. Vivekananda says that. Buddha says that. Question, not out of faith. Question and understand. And we are at a stage, we don't even know what questions to ask if we go through the scriptural knowledge. That is where for Swamiji's, it becomes hard if you keep asking the right questions. And we don't even know what those right questions are. So we have to keep asking questions. And then somewhere along, we will strike the right one and then get answers. So whatever that was said, whatever is said in Yoga Vasishtha, because one of the main precepts of Yoga Vasishtha is about self-effort. If we keep putting self-effort to an extent, then we know no matter how much self-effort that we put, there has to be something more than self-effort. This is where the story about Ramakrishna and about the bird sitting on the ship or the boat that comes to my mind. The bird, as you all know that story, a bird wakes up on a ship, and then the ship is already in the middle of the ocean. And the bird does not know where to go. It goes hither and thither, and then all directions. It cannot see the land. It keeps trying all the time, and then comes and sits on the mast, right? Because it is tired. That self-effort is very, very important. And then after putting the self-effort, we will be ready. And then whatever Gyan we get, we will be able to absorb it in such a way that not that we shouldn't be doing nothing and then we will reach a goal. Even that absorbing that knowledge is something, right? Not without putting any effort. And then when the bird wakes up, it knows it's already in the land, right? So that is how the effort is extremely important. Then when we reach that land, we will know there is no difference between that effort and the grace of God. Until and unless we put the effort, we don't have the grace of God. Until and unless we have the grace of God, we cannot put the effort.
Yes. Very good. What comes first?
It's a cycle,
Yeah.
not a circle.
Sorry.
Now you know the significance of that symptom cycle.
Yeah.
It's all interconnected. Which came first? Chicken or egg? If we can figure out the answer, we would not be here. That is the beauty of it. That mystery has to be there so we can enjoy. Because everything is answered. There is nothing. Like we have everything, but we're not as happy as we want to be, right? That little bit of mystery is there so we can keep imagining all the right things and be happy and answer some of the questions like Pramod, I think, as asking what is Satchit Ananda. I cannot stop if I start with that in a scientific way, how to answer. So we will hold on to that. And then maybe that answer, both Swamiji and me can take that up another time. But even the another question about Panchakosha Viveka, also how we can do that, we will take it up another time. Otherwise, we won't be able to finish. So it's about an hour. Yes, absolutely. Thanks for that question. I always welcome questions because this is where something that is deep within comes out in a spontaneous way. And then even I know, okay, I'm able to express it in a manner that actually touches people. So thank you again. Okay, so now I keep saying, what is it that prevents us to be well? This we have covered quite a bit yesterday. So I'm just going to breeze through some of the parts, except maybe another story again for the kid within us, and then see what it is. What is it that prevents us to be well?
Actually, hopefully when we sleep, the story time, people sleep. So nap time. But it's cool.
Yeah.
I am happy the best.
Yeah, that's right. Stand up. It happens. Or get a glass of water. This is the toughest thing for me to do post lunch. But yeah. Anyway,
for the sleeper.
I will get up and start walking, so you can watch me start walking, and then you will see. And anyway, what does it prevent us to be well? It's a story of American Indian folklore story.
Feeding the right wolf.
Pardon?
Feeding the right wolf.
Feeding, yeah.
Okay.
You know the story. Okay, great. So we'll know what this is in context and then see. It's an American Indian, Cherokee Indian folklore story. And American Indian folklore stories, they bring in a lot of animals to make the concepts to be understood. So it's a grandmother and a granddaughter's story. The granddaughter, after having played with the friends, she comes running to grandmother and says, "Grandma, how come? You are so calm. And whatever happens, you're always calm and quiet and cool. How is it possible?" And grandma knows, oh, this is something deep. Even she's the little girl, and she takes the little girl to the kitchen, and then with some cookies and cold milk, and then she starts with a story saying that, you know what, within each one of us there are two wolves fighting with each other. Always fights. One wolf, if I just have to make the story really short, is filled with a lot of difficult emotions. For every little thing, if it doesn't go its way, it starts fighting, it starts arguing, and it wants to have it its own way, and it is jealous and angry, and it compares with other things. So all the difficult emotions that you can think of, afflictive emotions, this wolf is all of that. And there is another wolf. It's calm, it's cool, it's peaceful, it's understanding, it is kind, it's grateful. And these two wolves are always fighting, is what the grandmother says. And the little girl says, Is it fighting? Then which wolf wins, Grandma? If it is fighting, if they are fighting, which wolf wins? Grandma tells, whichever wolf that you feed, that is the one that wins. What's the food for the wolves? Our own thoughts, right? Our own feelings. That there is always that inner voice within us, which will always be saying the right thing. But we want to handle things in a practical manner, and we try to quieten that inner voice too. So, and it is natural. And there is a scientific basis for that. Because as we were saying yesterday, this is for survival. Both the wolves have to fight. It cannot be ideal all the time. So which wolf do we keep feeding? And why do we keep feeding one wolf over the other? This is where the science comes about, saying that it is because of the negativity bias that we all have within ourselves, irrespective of somebody is a saint or a scientist, doctor or a patient, professor or a student, does not matter. Everybody has this negativity bias, because of which we get a lot of automatic negative thoughts, like ants, which this is what I will quickly go through. And you can also look into, if somebody has missed yesterday's interaction, and then you can get the rest. So because of this, the negative thoughts, negative emotions, feelings, memories, experience, perception, all of that, this stick to our brain and mind like Velcro. And whatever that is positive, every day, both positive and negative things happen. Nobody will have only positive or only negative. It does not make sense at all. And we need to have all these things. We need to know when to use the negative emotions or the afflictive emotions. If we use it the proper way, we will benefit from that too, you know. So I know that quizzical look. How come? Just as simple. I'll give you one example, and then we should get angry at ourselves. I know all of this. Why is it that I cannot still implement? Little bit anger, not too much to pull us down, just enough for us to keep us back on track. That is enough. So, like that example. So, the because of this negativity bias, we have a lot of accumulation of automatic negative thoughts, which will affect our studies, our learning, our relationships, our work, our entire life gets affected. And not only that, because of unchecked and unnoticed automatic negative thoughts, our mind behaves like a pendulum, going back and forth between past and future, looking at past with regret. I should have, I shouldn't have, I wish I did, I wish I did not. All this should have, wish, did or did not statements come to our mind, looking at the past with regret. And we look at the future with anxiety and pessimism and negativity because of the uncertainties of the future. And whatever is happening in the present moment, we never even imagined before we came to Ireland how we would be. And we have gone beyond our own expectation in terms of where we are right now, whichever way you look at it, whether it's materialistically or spiritually, whichever way, but still it is whatever is happening is not enough. Only when we have too many of these automatic negative thoughts. So because whatever is happening in the present moment is unsatisfactory, it will never allow us to be in the present moment to be in a mindful way. This is the culprit, the ants. So because of that, we keep giving, we think these are the reasons, but they are the excuses that we give for ourselves. I have just mentioned a few. We have a whole lot more negative excuses that we have already given and will keep giving them. What we need to understand is we can never ever lead a positive life with a negative mind. Just cannot happen. So what are the consequences of these automatic negative thoughts? We have everything, but yet we cannot be what we want to be. We want to be more joyous, want to be spending more time with our loved ones. We have all these resolutions on New Year, and we're not able to keep up with those resolutions for a while. So we cannot be what we want to be, and then we are not as proactive as we want to be. We shun away from our own responsibilities and duties too many a times because of the biases that we have. And that leads to frustration. And also we cannot be empathetic towards our own loved ones, towards our own colleagues when we have too much of this negativity. But what we need to remember is that the only way to get out of this negativity bias is through knowledge. We don't have any quick fixes. The effects of ants, we have pills and surgeries and whatnot, because this can lead to any kind of illness. But to get rid of, to go to the root and come out is only through knowledge. And most of the ants, there is always saving grace, in nature. Saving grace is most of the ants' automatic negative thoughts are false. If we can question our own thoughts and be totally honest, not just totally, brutally honest, we will see that most of these automatic negative thoughts are false. I'll also show you how to question our own thoughts as we go along when I cover the cognitive behavior training. So if that is the case, if this bias is causing us so much problem, how do we overcome this bias? We also have to know these thoughts, what lead to emotions or feelings. You see that cycle, thoughts on the whiteboard, thoughts leading to feelings, leading to actions. This is one of the foundation for cognitive behavior training. We need to understand. That's why I put it up on the board. The relationship between our thoughts, feelings, and actions. And actions, when we do it over a period of time in a consistent way, becomes a habit. Exactly. That's the science of habit. How do we form habits? By understanding that. But when the thoughts get converted to either feelings or emotions, and the feelings are expressed at the level of the body, feelings last longer, and all the butterflies in the stomach, headaches. See, kids get tummy aches, right? When they are afraid or when they are stressed, before they have a test, before the first day of school. For young kids, they get stomach ache, whereas we get headaches when we are stressed. One of the reasons is gut is called second brain. Gut is called because many of the reasons, one of the main reasons is so many nerve endings are there in the stomach. All the chemicals, neurochemicals that are released in the brain, they also get released in the stomach. And because the feelings are expressed at the level of the body, even before we can recognize our thoughts, many a times we can recognize how we are feeling. That energy level, we say, oh, I can't stand with this person for another day, too much of negativity, we say. It is what it is. At the energy level, when we say, that is what it is about, gut being the second brain. Anyway, we need to learn to convert these negative emotions, negative feelings, or afflictive emotions or afflictive feelings, or very simple, difficult emotions and difficult feelings, into healing emotions and healing feelings. That is the way. So if that is the case, we need to understand what these difficult emotions are. It's such a vague term when I keep giving I have only listed a few, both healing emotions and difficult emotions. Or maybe before I say that, maybe we can make it as an interactive session. Can you name some of the difficult emotions? Anger, fear, jealousy, disappointment, suspicion.
Ego, would that come into aspect?
Oh, we didn't cover the ego as an illness. I keep forgetting. We have to cover that again. It takes a long time for me, but we will see. Okay. Any other difficult emotion you want to?
Deceival.
Yeah.
Deceival, to be deceived. Deceival.
Deceive. Okay. Anything else? Disappointment. Lack of interest. Okay.
Pride and prejudice. Yeah.
Yes.
Pride
Pride and prejudice. Okay. Prejudices. Huh?
Greed.
Greed, arrogance. Yes. Okay. Let's see. I have only come up with few. We gave a lot more than what we said here. Anger, fear, frustration, sadness, jealousy, regret, hate, shame, and guilt. Just to name a few. So if these have to be converted into healing feelings, can we go through some of the healing emotions? Love,
Courage,
acceptance, courage,
compassion,
compassion, empathy, gratitude.
Sincerity.
What?
Sincerity.
Sincerity. Yes. Yes.
contentment,
Contentment. Yes.
happiness,
Happiness. Joy. Happy. Yes.
appreciation,
Yes. Appreciative. Yes.
forgiveness,
Forgiveness. Yes.
Being thankful.
Yeah. Gratitude. Thankful. Yes. You have mentioned more than what I have listed. I'll just go through some. Compassion, joyful, empathy, understanding, love, peaceful, appreciative, trusting, gratitude, accepting reality the way it is. I just want to take 2 minutes and then make the difference between empathy and compassion. As I said earlier, empathy is feeling what others are feeling. That is empathy. But compassion is something you're trying to do something to alleviate that person's suffering. There's a huge difference.
Some sympathy followed by action is called empathy, isn't it?
Usually we can make our own definition and then build upon it. No, but sympathy is the way sympathy is, we look at it in a hierarchical way, in a helpless manner. Look at this pavam. When we look, ayo papa, for people who have less than us, we have a lot more, as human beings, we have a lot more sympathy towards people who have less. That is why we are so eager to write checks, to donate and feel good about it. That's where the ego gets blown. And it's natural. I'm not saying it is wrong. It is even that lot of people don't even have that sympathy. It's very important to sympathize. But empathy is even better. We still need to donate and give the check, not because of pavam, ayo papa, but Shivajnane Jiva Seve. Look at the person which has the same God. And feel it, but also feel what he's going through at the level of the body and mind, and try and do that. When we take action, it becomes compassion. And if we do it at a conscious level without our ego getting blown, it is conscious compassion. Otherwise, it is ego-based or in an emotional way. Then it becomes again very.
So if it is Shivajnane Jiva Seva, that is being empathetic.
And compassion. without that hierarchical thing. They're equals. What they're going through this at the level of the Panchakoshas. But at the, not even Anandamaya, whatever we talk about, the awareness, I think, Pramod, that awareness is very different, Pramod, than what we are talking here about self-awareness. This is at a different level. What you have asked, whether it is pure awareness, we call that as pure or absolute consciousness, absolute awareness. What we are talking at the level of reflected consciousness. A scientific, a scriptural term for that is Chidabhasa, reflected consciousness. Yeah, that leads to, we will just take it at that, and then just to answer, we will go into different, it is like what we are saying, we know that there is a subject elsewhere, and we are all the mirror image. If there is an image, there has to be, let's forget about subject, there has to be an object. Only if there is an object and there is a mirror, there is an image, right? So we are all images. That's the reflected part of the Satchitananda. Crude, yeah.
Now, like I am Surya, that Vritti, thought process there, very common. Similarly, Chidabhasa, when we say I am the Atman, I am the self, I am the self, I am the self, a thought process. Now, I am the self, it comes very occasionally, very rarely, how much ever we listen. But I'm like, I'm Swami Shanti, I'm Swami, it comes automatically, naturally, generally. So, like that, when we do a lot of thinking and probably our mind gets matured, spiritually matured enough and cleansed enough, then we start thinking, a continuous wave starts feeling that, a sort of feeling that I am that Atman, I am that Atman, I am that Atman. So that is what called reflective consciousness of Chidabhasa. So that is very near to self-realization or organization.
Yeah.
In a very general way, simple way.
That is from the scriptural angle. From the scientific angle, we are right now aware. We can just call that as from an implementation perspective, Swamiji. Then I call that as reflected consciousness. This is still awareness with the self-awareness with the smallest. Yes, Brian.
I heard about sympathy, empathy, and compassion. If somebody is in a hole in the ground, it is not possible for them to get out. That sympathy, you go and get a ladder, and you get down into the hole with them, and you listen to their story. Empathy, you just put the ladder. With compassion, you put the ladder, and you tell them how to move.
Great. Yes. Yeah, we need to figure it out for ourselves how to. Okay. So we need to do this to convert these difficult emotions into healing emotions. So how do we overcome the effects of these ants? Big question, but very simple answer. Only two ways. If you keep remembering this is enough. Overcoming the effects of ants or overcoming the negativity bias, because these are the ants that prevent us to be in the present moment, which means if we cannot be in the present moment, we cannot be mindful, right? So by being in the now, in the present moment is the way to overcome ants. And by converting our difficult emotions into healing emotions is how we overcome the bias. And how
being in the now, you mean just don't think of past or future.
Rather than not thinking, we need to learn from the past, plan for the future, and be mindful in the present moment. Right now, because of the bias, we look at the past with all negativity, should have, shouldn't have. Being in the now in a mindful way. That's what, how to be in the now in a mindful way. And how do we convert our difficult emotions into healing emotions? But these are all the tools that I'm now giving you. Yesterday, we took mindfulness to a different level. From a tool, how can we use it as a way of life? Here, we're only talking about mindfulness as a tool. So I'm just going to give one way of looking at mindfulness, because if we have to make it as a way of life.
The windometer indicator is in this way, so the chair is fallen down. So
Yeah.
It can't fall any further.
Carpet can fly now.
It came back.
Carpet is empowered. It can fly now. Magic carpet now. I don't know.
Can we take 2-minute break? So can I do? Okay. So now we are using these as just tools, both mindfulness and CBT, cognitive behavior training. There's a difference between therapy and training. I cannot do cognitive behavior therapy for this many people and in a short period of time. I'll give you everything that is necessary, why you should do, what is CBT, and much more than a therapist can give for CBT. So we can use it for ourselves. We don't even need to use the word therapy. For every day, just to convert difficult emotions to healing emotions, we don't need to say it's a therapy. It's a training of mind that we do.
So do we
That's
need a
enough.
Positive outlook.
Absolutely.
Seeing positiveness is the mindfulness then.
No, not really, because seeing the reality as it is, not even just, that is why if you have to make it positive, you have to bring in CBT, the two together. Even CBT, cognitive behavior training, is a tool. Mindfulness is the seeing whatever it is. If it is negative, just watch the negative thoughts, negative feelings, just witness them. It will pass. It will lose its power. And they say just being mindful is enough. But in my opinion, that will take a long time to make it faster, quicker, and to make it more efficient. If we combine mindfulness with CBT, it is nothing but looking at things from a pratipaksha bhavana, like as it says in Patanjali Yoga. If we have a negative thought, put an opposite thought, pratipaksha bhavana, which is opposite thought. That is CBT. But not just bhavana is enough. It has to be followed with action, behavior. That is why cognitive behavior training. Very simple, right? We will go into little bit more detail into both these. I will do the mindfulness so that Surya and Rama will not miss anything, because we have done mindfulness. By then they will be back, and then I will go into CBT.
So are you saying that we can convert the difficult emotions into healing emotions by cognitive behavior training?
Yeah, we're going to go into it great detail now. So the first is to be in the now, and that means to be mindful. We're just looking at it as a tool. So the only thing that we need is this definition, what we talked about yesterday, bringing one's complete attention, focus to what is happening right now on a moment to moment basis, and in a particular way, which is non-judgmental way. In other words, that's John Kabat-Zinn who has given this definition. So in other words, to make that whole definition very simple, all we need is 3 things to remember what is being mindful, to be in the present moment. We have to be in the present moment. We have to be completely focused, highly focused, concentrated upon that present moment. And we should be non-judgmental. If we can do all the 3, then we will be in the present moment. Okay. We have gone through this in greater detail yesterday. Yeah.
Being in now, then being focused and being non-judgmental. We are able to do this so easily when we watch a movie. But when
Isn't
we do
it?
this as in the practical life, we
Yeah.
are in the past or in the present.
Right.
Why is it so? Is it because we are associating ourselves with that and we are detached when we watch a movie? Is that
Either, I don't know if you are detached, much more than that, we are so interested and we are enjoying so much And we know it's a story, it's a movie. Not everybody will be watching like that. Lot of people get involved.
Yeah,
If I watch a movie, I'll start crying.
But we are in the now, ma'am. We are just in the present when we are
Yeah,
watching.
but yes, you're right. Because I'm in the present moment, I'm also crying,
Yeah,
and then
I'm
I
also
can
crying, yeah.
relate. So,
I'm also laughing.
But how do you say we're not judgmental?
Judgmental.
We
We are-
ourselves are like, in the
We are
talent, we see
judging.
the actors and say, oh, that is good,
it's
that is
not
bad.
being.
That
This
we are
is
trying to solve the situation.
It's not being mindful. We are focused. We are in the flow. We are so focused. It's not about being non-judgmental. We are understanding. When you are understanding, you're figuring out characters and whatnot. We don't say that you can watch a movie in a mindful way, in the sense, part of it. You're in the present moment and you are highly focused. We need to take that example for understanding concentration and focus, much more than being non-judgmental. We're so focused on while we watch a movie. Why not that? While we are cooking, so that we can enjoy, while we are cleaning and feel good about it.
Rather than the focus is there, of course, a byproduct. But the other way of putting it is probably, according to me, is we are enjoying. Just like cricket. I play cricket with the students. With the same maths, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we enjoy it.
We enjoy. Right.
Just like even for that matter, any game. When we were small, we used to play games. We never used to even feel hunger. Mother used to come, afternoon is happening, you're not like an used to come. Then only we used to remember about the food.
So involved.
So involved.
Flow, in the flow. You lose track of time and then you're enjoying too.
And same thing also now, for example, anyone creative person, if he or she is doing some art or painting or something, definitely will forget it.
Right. Okay. So the next tool is to convert our difficult emotions into healing emotions. So what is this CBT? For that, why? Why do we need to use this tool? We have heard so much about CBT. You were asking yesterday. Why? Why do we need CBT? First, let us understand. Why do we need to use this as a tool? To come out of our highly charged emotional reactions. Right? Because why? We have already gone through. Emotions are not facts. They color our reality. It is like putting filters and trying to understand something. You cannot see it properly. So we need to come out of those intense, highly charged emotional reactions. And the way to do it is through CBT. We need to come out of our limiting beliefs. We have so many belief systems. When we were young, we have acquired. Right? And we don't question. And then if we question, oh, these are all superstitions, and then we change because we are rational people. We don't want to be superstitious. But yet there are so many belief systems that is even more disempowering than superstitions, but yet we cannot let go. These are our limiting and disempowering belief system. To come out of that, to question. Until and unless we question, we cannot come out. And when we question, if we have emotions, it gets colored. Yes, sorry.
So emotion in you, emotion of others, if we, the way I'm saying, so this is like to come out of highly charged emotional reaction as self is a tool. But if you look at others' emotion, if you show that emotion is not reality, then how do you sympathize and empathize and be compassionate?
Just to listen. many a times, there is one type of
The
psychotherapy.
question is, do we have to switch the case of our emotional self emotion? Do we have to be?
We know it won't work at that time,
Exactly.
right?
that is certainly easy to say. Then,
I know. There is a type of psychotherapy which is talk therapy. The person talks and you just listen. Do not say anything, just listening. The person, if we are non-judgmental, as they are describing their emotions, and if we are not judging them, they themselves will realize at times, may not be the first time, it has to happen many times, and then they will be able to trust us. And it will happen.
Leadership point of view, that's the thing they say, listen to the people, let them talk, let them find solutions. Let's listen to them.
Yeah.
Because then impulsive mode. So knowledge doesn't work there. How much of it they listen? Yes. It will go.
Unless they come to you to seek solution, then they listen. That's why many a times I don't do one-on-one counseling. This is education. People come to learn, to listen, and then it's easier for them to absorb rather than one-on-one. I've done something wrong. Something is not right, and so I have to go to a counselor to get some help. Why? There is no right or wrong. This is the way mind works. All untrained minds work the same way. All trained minds work the same way. See how beautifully it works out, because this is scientific, not counseling, not there is something wrong, correct this, change this, none of that, right? Are Baba, if you think like this, this is what's going to happen. Change this is what will happen. But if as a family member I say it won't work.
The opposite will work. That's why judgmental comes in before letters.
I keep saying that you're just listening, you're not giving anything, you're not reacting.
Oh, then if you're looking for it, that is fine. But you also have to be able to, even when we ask, we are expecting something, the answer that what we want. Then we will accept. Otherwise, we won't. These are all our filters, our biases. And if we do it this way, it is learning, and we can laugh at ourselves, we can laugh at others. It's not going to be intense, and then we can laugh, but something would have gone inside it, and we will know. Only when we start putting into practice, then we will know how tough it is. And then we come back. These are all the first layers, and then we can go deeper and deeper and deeper into it in a scientific way. And ultimately, what I have realized over the past 15 years of experience, only 3 things matter. If we get into these 3 things, that is enough. These are all the basics, foundation. First thing is about learning about the importance of interpersonal relationships. I kept saying yesterday also, interpersonal relationships is even more important than our health, because we know after a certain age, the health will be affected. That's a given. But if our interpersonal relationships are affected, if we have a dysfunctional relationship, no matter how healthy you are, you'll never be happy. Whereas even on the deathbed, if you have good relationships, you can still have zest for life even on the deathbed. That is what this is about. So the first thing is about importance of interpersonal relationships. And as I said, we all need to understand what anxiety is about, and anxiety and depression both kind of go together. Depression is about the past, anxiety is about the future. We need to understand this. Everybody needs this. And then forgiveness. Without any exception, everybody needs to understand forgiveness, not from a moralistic perspective, from a scientific perspective. How it affects our health, how it affects our interpersonal relationships, how it affects our quality of life. If these three things are covered, these are the flagship programs of Yogakshema. If we can cover these three things, everything else can be covered. What we're doing, these are all foundational courses. But even many a times, if the participants are in the right frame of mind, we laugh the most in the depression talks, believe it or not. Because we keep giving examples. I can give more examples because I have gone through depression, how I have avoided certain things. If I think about it, I can laugh at it now. And when I share my own things and laugh at it, of course, we know everybody will else do the same way, right? So we laugh the most in the depression workshop. With the right type of people, with the questioning mind like you have, it's even more fun. And we can learn in a joyful mind. Yes, thank you.
Sorry, so we are basically going through all of these, as you said, that the basics of it, and the three that you are summarizing
Flagship.
as the flagship. So that is, like, one is that you are focusing on the interpersonal relationship. And
IPR.
and
IPR is interpersonal relationships.
and forgiveness. And so when you are talking forgiveness, it is to kind of get your negativity, to shed that out and give
Not just shedding negativity, no, to truly forgive first ourselves and others.
And sorry,
No residual answer.
no residual answer. And the third
Depression and anxiety.
Depression and anxiety, the third point. Let me ask one. What is forgiveness? Right? It is true that if we can forgive and forget, then definitely we'll be at peace. But to what extent?
Yeah, that's a separate topic in itself. With forgiveness, sometimes I do for 2 days when people are really want to go involved. There are a lot of misconceptions about forgiveness. So I cannot give you an answer in 30 seconds, but I will still give you some answer. You have to be at least a little bit satisfied and then to pique the interest. Forgetfulness is not forgiveness. That's all I'm going to say. You can still remember, but yet forget. It won't hurt the same way as it hurt before. That's more empowering than forgetting something. Okay. So
you're covering the forgiveness part of the science.
Not today.
The reason being, the forgiveness, how does it completely take away the ants out?
There is
The real
2 ways. We go through a scientific process, take you to a meditative state, ask certain questions, come up with the answers by yourself. You're going to do that. There's nothing I can do. By answering the questions in an honest way, you will learn how to forgive. It's not one-time affair. We will learn how to do it.
We can think of it. Like everyone is in the process, everyone is in the journey. So everyone is doing mistakes. You or everyone. So like that similar way, he or she has done mistakes. It's an error or mistake. So we have to accept and we have to accept that and we have to forgive. We have to accept and we have to forgive. So that at least whatever happens to him or her, at least I'll be at peace.
Right, because forgiveness is for us, not for the other person.
But
What about
the plants and the
acceptance?
trees,
Yeah.
involuntarily they forgive us. We keep plucking the fruits and flowers. We harm them, but yet they forgive and they sprout again. So probably should learn from them.
Yeah, you can say that.
there is a question
How do we
in
forgive? That is again through.
yeah.
Today workshop.
When are you coming next?
I think we need to continue the semester. Looks like a lot of subjects.
Yeah.
And very interesting too. So,
This is just an appetizer, no?
yeah,
Main course.
exactly.
So what Monday, Tuesday, 2 days course?
There is a question.
We
What
don't do
are
it online on Zoom or something. These
I-
things can't be done online.
It can be done. I have done all of this, but I'm on the stage to move around, to be doing this, not sit in one place and do it.
And how do we then? Those who are not with you.
No, I can move around and come whenever there is a need. So if there is a need, you ask Swamiji, then he'll be able to.
What about acceptances as is? There's a question there.
Acceptance
Acceptances as is.
as is, yeah. Correct.
No, what about
Oh,
acceptance?
yes, it is all about acceptance as is.
Okay. I hope,
So we accept as is and then that's how we forgive ourselves, is that?
No, yes and no.
No, I think one of the ways to convert the difficult thoughts, emotions to healing was to accept the reality as it.
Okay, I'll give the final answer and then I'll stop this topic.
Yeah, yeah.
If you really want to evolve, the way to do it is through forgiveness.
It's an important topic.
What about
it needs today workshop and we need you actually sometimes. We want to evolve ourselves.
And I will give a scientific way of explanation that I can give after I do the CBT.
Okay.
What does that mean to evolve in a scientific way relating to our brain and mind? And our maybe some of the koshas we can bring and then connect that we can do. Can we go through the CBT and then I can if I pick that interest about evolving in the most scientific manner, and I will say this and continue because in Bhagavatam there it says Brahmavaloka Dhishanam, that means only humans have the cerebral capacity to evolve. No other animal has the cerebral capacity to evolve. What does that mean in terms to bodily functions? In terms of our panchakoshas, panchakosha viveka, we can connect. And then we
Freedom
can
of
do that.
choice.
Yeah,
Freedom of-
so starting with the freedom of choice.
No, freedom of choice is different from free will.
Okay.
Scientifically,
I don't
no.
accept that we have got
I
a
know,
free
but
will. We have got a will, but we don't have a free will.
yeah,
Free will is the misnomer.
no, we can define in a certain way and then go according to that. So we can say power to choose is free will. That is how I'll define, and then that's
Freedom of
because then I go back to the power to choose the story that Yatishwaranandaji talks about in the meditation and spiritual life. He gives this as an example for free will. There's a cow, and then it is attached to a post with a length of rope. It grazes. You know the story, I'm sure you would have said. That is the power to choose, or free. It has that free will. Only if it uses its free will to the fullest extent, then we will go further, or we will get that grace, whether it could be Malika of that cow or through God's grace or whatever. And the length of the rope gets increased. But you still will have only that limited. In that sense, yes, I agree. But this is science. We have to be in a limited manner, Swamiji, so that we can.
Science is limited.
Of course, but the limited nature, we have not even touched part of it. We have not used our unlimited capability to acquire that limited knowledge, but we want to jump there. That is where I'm saying. Okay, now why CBT? The next one is to come out of that autopilot mode, that mental automatism, what we've been talking about yesterday, the habitual mind.
Autopilot, we mean reactive or instinctive.
Reactive, instinctive, habitual way, non-conscious way, all this compulsive way. All of this is autopilot mode, mental automatism. And then to challenge and change our underlying thoughts that give rise to difficult emotions. We got to challenge and we need to change. Only if you are ready to change this possibility. Otherwise, people go through therapists, they get the therapy, CBT as therapy, and then come back with same kind of issues later on, because we are not ready to change. Until and unless we are ready to change, that readiness factor, that has to be there. Actually, it's not the things that happen in our life that drive our emotions and behaviors, but how we think about those things, how we perceive those things, or how we believe about those things.
So the conditioned mind will think one way, unconditioned mind will always think the other way.
In a different way, many different ways.
Yeah, other ways.
Ways, yeah. Which is different for everybody.
Yes.
It's very profound.
Profound, yeah. Very.
You know this, right? Negative thinking blows everything out of proportion. I will go through this in a pictorial manner so that we can, I don't even have to take any example. Think about any example, everyday example. Your kids react to too much green chilies in the food, right? Take that example and how you react, and then let's understand this statement and then go through the situation. How are we responding? This big way, negative way. Right? And then something positive comes about. A kid comes back with, we are going to go on a trip, and this is how much money it's going to cost, and then I'm going to go with this friend and that friend, and all of this in a positive way. And then we know what it is going to be, and how is our response? Or to a rock concert, right? Kid coming and asking them, I want to go to a rock concert, and then our response. Key here is, it's okay, it happens for everybody, but we need to be aware of these things. It's our kid who says, why aren't you happy? It's such a nice opportunity. Why aren't you as happy as I am? Or you say, what's a big deal? Take out the green chilies, add more ghee into it, and then it's going to be fine, right? It's the other person who is telling us, but we need to be aware of our own negative reactions, which we blow out of proportion because of the negativity, which means the self-awareness has to go up. Otherwise, it's always somebody, and then we'll start defending our own blown out responses, or we start defending and blaming. Defending and blaming are the two worst automatic negative thoughts. If you need to compare automatic negative thoughts to real ant population, they are like termites.
May I ask the extension of this, the other extension? Other very positive thing is, okay, when we hear all these things, so that means everything is subjective and nothing is relative or nothing is objective. If that is the thing, then we can't make decisions. We can't say yes or no.
True, but we have to live in the relative world. We have to make certain decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
That ultimate thing, everything is objective, is only when it comes to real crucial matters, then we need to go there. Otherwise, everything is relative in this world. We have to live in this empirical world. This is where I always say, no matter what, we cannot take it in an objective way. A wave can never be an ocean.
No, for argument's sake.
Yeah, I
I will
know.
argue with my manager. And whatever you were telling is unrelated. Actually, whatever you are
But
accusing.
we
I'm
cannot, is what I'm saying.
That I am not like that. It's only your colored mind is telling that I am not
Yeah.
okay or I am not true.
I know, but this is not for others. It's for our own evolving. This is not to look for reasons to give others or to make it as an excuse for whatever we are not doing. This is for our own, everything what we're doing, it's for us. We cannot go and tell others you have this and you have that and try to change them, right? It's all for us. That's why I had this yesterday. It's for us to understand our own mind and to train our own mind and not to change somebody else's behavior. Remember one of the beginning slides, and not to change the circumstances. If we can change, well and good. Why do we have to come here? Only when we cannot change the external circumstances, when we cannot change our spouse, when we cannot change the work, that is when we need to figure out the answers from within. Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be so nice to give an Advaitic answer for our bosses, for our spouses, to convince them. It doesn't work that way, guys. We have to come down to one level below, and Advaitic is at an intellectual level, but we still can use one crucial things. Otherwise, no need to get into that. At that one level below, Vishishtadvaita level is plenty for us to be really happy. Right, Swamiji? Subject. Because if we really take in a traditional way, none of us will be eligible to go even into Advaitic knowledge. We have to be true renunciates to be eligible. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. That's what Shankaracharya says. That's why it was only for the sannyasins. Only Vivekananda came and talked about, yeah.
No, rather, if you see the history of Advaita, the Advaita came from the kings actually. Afterwards, the Brahmins, even the Brahmins learned from the kings or sages. Of course, sages, I mean, they gave to the world.
That's why they were called Rajarshis, the same.
So that's what Advaita was started by actually by the kings.
Yeah.
So
Deva Kutumbakam.
Yeah, that means, I mean, anyone can practice. That's what even Swami Ranganathan tells every time.
Is that why all Swamijis are called Maharaj? It's a rhetoric question. I need to answer. Okay, so our self-awareness has to increase.
So when we are in a logical time, we can have a break for
Sure.
For 30 minutes.
We will go through up to 4. We will, without any break. We will, otherwise we won't be able to finish. So I don't know if you have time for the story. Shall I go through a quick story? Okay, what is the self-awareness? I keep saying, and then we get confused with absolute awareness, like Pramod's, not that Pramod was confused, but that questions arise. What is this absolute awareness and what is the self-awareness, right? At our level, this story will really help us. So again, it's most of the times whenever I start telling a story, everybody knows it starts with a sadhu. You know how much I like sadhu's life, and that's why I tell all the stories related to sadhus. Okay. Sadhu, Gurukula, with a sadhu and many students. And one young boy is kind of quite mischievous and happy, go lucky type kind of a guy. So this Guru says to Guru Patni, not Sadhu, Guru, let us say, he says to Guru Patni, you know what, this little kid, you keep giving him neem oil instead of ghee. Every time you give him food, instead of giving ghee, you keep giving him neem oil.
I think just for the
And
benefit of non-Indians, if you can just translate that.
Yeah, neem oil is very, very bitter.
Bitter.
Exactly, it is extremely bitter. And he, just that Guru saying this to Guru Patni, giving neem oil, I saw that expression. Yes, there is a reason. We won't know anytime any Guru says there is a reason. We need to understand the reason. And he says, when that kid complains, then you have to come and tell me. So, okay, Guru Patni, first she didn't understand, she had the same expression and she understands and that says, okay. And the Guru Patni keeps giving neem oil to this little kid and the little kid is happy. And then the Guru does not teach this little kid at all. All the other students are being taught. This student doesn't get taught. And he's even happier. He is playing. He's helping Guru Patni with the bringing firewood, with the vegetables and playing with animals. Bindas, this little kid keeps playing. And the Guru Patni keeps giving neem oil and he eats the food in a great, happy, joyous manner. One final day, this little boy says, Amma, something tastes very bitter today. And the Guru Patni is so happy. She runs to the Guru and says, your student complained today about the bitterness of the things. And the Guru says, okay, and he's so happy. Send him. I'm ready to teach him now. In other words, until and unless we know our own mistakes, we will never be able to learn anything. At least if we look at the self-awareness in that way, that is enough. Then we'll be ready. So that self-awareness has to increase. Otherwise, it is somebody else. A therapist is giving us all the instructions for CBT, but we are not ready. Our awareness is like that little kid eating neem oil and being happy. So it's an important prerequisite for us to be able to change, is what I'm trying to say. So when self-awareness ensues, there's a direct proportional response to any situation. So CBT, just quickly go through it. What does it do? It aims to teach people that it is possible to have control over our own thoughts, our own feelings, our own emotions, our own behaviors, our own belief system, our own perception. And it also helps the person to challenge and overcome these automatic beliefs, these compulsions, so as to say, and use practical strategies to change and modify our own actions, our own habits, our own behavior towards our own loved ones. And the goal is to alter our cognitive processes by increasing our awareness and by facilitating better understanding of ourselves, and by improving self-control, by developing more appropriate cognitive skills and behavioral skills. As the name suggests, cognitive process, it's a conscious process, deliberate process, effortful process, and it has to result in change in our behavior. So all of that boils down to, we saw that in the whiteboard, the cycle. Thoughts create feelings, and feelings create our behavior, thought, feeling, action. And our behavior reinforces our thoughts. Very simple now to understand, right? This is the foundation for CBT. In other words, what we think affects how we behave and how we feel. And what we do affects how we think and how we feel. And what we feel affects what we think and what we do. Same thing said in many different ways so that it gets honed in again and again. So take an example. Some anxiety-provoking situation happens. Or you have to speak in public. And you say, oh, how can I do this? Our thoughts, negative thoughts, we are afraid of public speaking. And then we say, what if I make a fool of myself? That will lead to more anxiety. That is an emotion, anxiety. And that leads to our behavior being quiet, avoidance behavior, not speaking. That action again leads to more reinforcing of that anxious thoughts again. What if I make a fool of? I never want to do that. This we see if you have taught young kids, and if there are many a times when you ask a question as a teacher, some kids hide behind the others, thinking, oh, I hope they won't ask me. Not because they don't know the answer, because of the lot of times of the fear and anxiety. So the same thing when expanded, so that emotion, anxiety actually results in feelings, bodily sensations. If you have to go and speak, it might result in sweaty hands, palpitations, right? And this happens even under stressful situations. So much so, many times we hear this when I go to certain corporate offices. They say a lot of youngsters, they get admitted to the hospital thinking that they literally get pain, heart pain, not heartache because of some emotional issue, but literally angina-like pain. So they get rushed to the hospital thinking maybe they're having a heart attack, but all the tests go through and everything comes out negative. It's just the anxiety that causes bodily sensations which mimic something that is very serious. We see this many a times with youngsters these days. So that cycle continues. So I'll take one more situation so that we can understand, going deeper into CBT. The only way to make us understand is going through the examples. So, yeah, imagine this. What is it? You have had a bad day. Go ahead.
As you walk down the road, someone you know walks by and apparently ignores you.
Yeah, that is a situation. And then what do we do? There are some unhelpful ways of reacting to this, and there are some helpful ways. And let us see what those are. And what could be our unhelpful thought? Oh, look at that. I called up 3 times. She ignored me. Right? That is one way. And then how do we feel? We feel rejected. We feel sad. This happens from young age to whatever age, right? We feel rejected. And then what happens? If it's kids, stomach cramp, stomach ache. Or for us, we feel so bad. Why did she do this? What did I do?
Nowadays,
We feel angry.
situation happens in Facebook itself. I uploaded a picture and you didn't like it. You ignored me.
That's something I did not even realize that. Now I will take this
You
example.
saw that message. I have to do things and if not responding. You have ignored me.
Now let's change the situation now to the social media situation. See, because I'm not on social media, I couldn't get that
It's not even
example.
a personal.
Yeah. Next time I will change that example. Next time I use the slide. So what happens? You go home and avoid them, or why should I send her? You take her out if you can. I don't know if you can. Block them out.
Yeah, block them.
Or I will not like
Exactly.
I will have like friendship.
Oh, yeah, oh, that is even better. Yeah. You ignore, right? Avoid them.
Thumbs down.
What are-
Yeah.
I learned something.
Yeah.
See, I learned something new.
Please think it is positive always.
What are the helpful ways of dealing with that? Oh, maybe she didn't go through it properly, or maybe this color dress she does not like, that's why she didn't give a thumbs up sign, whatever. And then, so in this situation, she looks a bit wrapped up on herself. Yeah, I wonder if there is something wrong. So what do we do? How do we feel? We are concerned about the other person. Empathy. And what do we do? Physically, nothing happens. We don't feel uncomfortable, nothing. But what is the action that you take? Go back and call, was everything okay? I try to get your attention. I hope everything is okay.
So if that person ignores, that makes an unhelpful situation. Reach out to, as per the good action, reach out to the person, make sure that we are okay. But that person ignores.
Yeah.
Because you can't control that.
Correct.
That
Yeah, that is later, but we're just trying to understand, like instead of going to another situation, just to understand CBT, just the situation is enough. That is a separate issue altogether. So another example, you've made up your mind to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the alarm goes off, and then you hit the snooze button. It could be 5 minutes, could be 10 minutes. That's a thought. Oh no, one more snooze button. And then the emotions. I'm so tired and I feel angry with the alarm, right? And you feel so tired. What do? What's our behavior? You pull covers over the head and then you stay in bed. How? Just this is again, I will leave this up to you rather than making it an interaction, because it will take too much time and then we will cover. We have half hour to cover the rest of the stuff. How would you change the situation? This is all about cognitive behavior training. This is how our thoughts and feelings, and this is the action that we take. This is a common example. You can switch this to either waking up at 6 a.m. or doing that meditation that Swamiji has taught, right? And we give so many reasons and excuses. So how can we change? And so that our behavior changes. So now, going deeper into CBT, it's all about understanding that there is, again, mind, body, and behavior connection. We understand about the mind, body very easily, that our actions, our habits, our experiences, our behavior is also connected with that is the way to go. So usually CBT involves 2 steps. It's called metacognition, and it's all about rehearsal of our own thoughts and feelings. What is it we will see? Metacognition is nothing but thinking about our own thoughts. Again, how do we think in a mindful way, not in a biased way? You know, this is where the 2 combination is so powerful, CBT and mindful. Otherwise, we will never be able to change our behavior. Again, when we are thinking about the thoughts, we are defending our actions, we are blaming the circumstances, we'll never be able to change. Thinking about our own thoughts, thinking about our feelings, thinking about our perception, thinking about our belief system. That also involves that self-awareness and to be honest to ourselves. And mind rehearsal is all about whatever we spend our mental energies into, that is what we become. What Vivekananda says, whatever we think we become. But just thinking is not enough, right? Again, it has to result in action. Just think.
I was playing, for example, I was playing a video game. I was, addicted to that. Now someone said, or I did myself understand that it's a waste of time and not constructive. So it's a waste of time and I don't go anywhere. But still, maybe because of addiction, because of liking towards that, because of interest in that, I'm playing. Earlier I was unconsciously playing. No, I know that it is not constructive, it is not helpful, but still consciously I'm playing it. No, by knowing it, even I'm not able to get out from it.
We cannot. We can, that is what I'm saying. Just that awareness is not going to be enough. We need to be ready to change. Until and unless that readiness factor comes in, I get these cases all the time, especially the teenagers. They are so addicted to social media. The parents want the kids to change. It cannot happen. And I tell them that I feel so much for the parents, but it is not possible. The kid has to be ready. And it knows it cannot. That is where that correct term, addiction. And addiction is not just a bad habit, it's a disease. Whether addiction to alcohol, addiction to tobacco, addiction to lying, addiction to social media, whatever it is become pathological.
Is it illness or disease?
Illness.
Not disease.
No, we can, it depends. We will just play it as whatever it is. If we make up our mind, and then if we are really have that kind of willpower with the proper knowledge, we will be able to come out of it. But we have to be vigilant all the time, which means that why should I change should be strong enough. If the why is not strong enough, no matter how we can give all the knowledge, it will not make a dent.
So willing to change and trying or practice.
Yeah, and that why I have to change has to be strong enough. I'll give you a very simple example. Losing some pounds, some kgs. If that why should I lose? To look nice, I can get dresses that will look nice even with a few pounds on. But the fear is a very great motivator. If the doctor says, you're so young, your cholesterol is going up, what are you trying to do? Try and reduce your cholesterol. Somewhere for some people, not for everybody. That fear factor comes in, and that is enough. That why? Oh, if I let go of this, what does the statistics say? And then we will change. Until and unless the why is strong enough, we will never. That's why we try, we stop. We try, we stop. What we say is make that why really strong. That means you really have to have that. I'm using this word in a very good way. Be passionate about why you want to change, not in a very superficial manner. In other words, if the desire is weak, the result is also going to be very weak. And for mind rehearsal, affirmations play a huge role. We talked about affirmations this morning. Affirmation is nothing but a repetition of a cognitive cue. Athletes do this all the time. Yes, I can do it. If you have watched tennis, Wimbledon tennis, you've seen how each, I don't know the current tennis players, I'm talking about McEnroe time, how he used to say to himself, yes, I can do it, kind of a thing. Athletes use these affirmations in a huge way. In other words, common terminology, psych yourself up to be able to do certain things. That's affirmations. And like Rama said, the actions have to be right. Not any action. We have to take right action. See, this is where the question about doing things right and doing right things come about. We need to learn to do right things first. Even if you don't know how to do things right, it is okay, we can learn. If we are just doing not so right things, but if we know how to do it right, it's not going to be of use. So we need to decide on doing the right thing. And then we can learn how to do things right. That will cover up that action. So this been saying that self-talk helps in metacognition. It's nothing but self-talk. How do we do this? We need to question our thoughts. I said this, how we're going to do this. I'll go through this when I go to CBT. Because we said most of the ants are false. And not all thoughts, which means all the thoughts we get are not true. Because most of the ants are false. But they are real, because every thought releases a chemical. And every thought we get, there is a change in the electrical impulse or electrical activity. In that sense, thoughts are real, but not all thoughts are true. So you have to put it into a true or false test. So we need to question our thoughts. We need to decrease the impulse to react and go through a true or false test. For this, we need to be mindful, to be honest. If the thought is not true, reject it. Most of the thoughts, may not be true. At best, we will come up with, I don't know. Even then, put it on hold or reject. I don't know. And then replace. If the thoughts are not true, if it's a negative thought, if it's a true negative thought, then replace it with the positive thought, like we were talking about pratipaksha bhavana, and use affirmations to reinforce those. One of the prerequisites is to be truthful to yourself. If the thoughts are true, and if the situation cannot be changed, like the example that you gave, further example that we took, the person ignored me, right? It was true, whatever negative thought that I get, and I cannot change the situation. Then accept the situation with serenity. It means this is where the serenity prayer comes in. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I cannot change that person. He or she might have ignored me in a conscious way, deliberate manner. Then we have to lick our wounds and then, he or she doesn't want to be my friend, may not be the proper one. So we have to be aware. Accept the things we cannot change with serenity. And we need to have the courage and skills to change whatever we can. And we need to know the difference between what is it that we can change and what is it that we cannot change. Extremely important. So these next few slides, I'll go through it. It's really quick ones. Just, we'll see. It's all about our thoughts and beliefs. How do we change? And how do we put it into action? The right action is important. Focus on changing your limiting thoughts and focus on changing the actions because of those limiting thoughts. And focus on changing your limiting beliefs and focus on changing the actions. Focus on changing your disempowering thoughts. And so focus on changing the actions and focus on changing the disempowering beliefs. And so focus on changing the actions. Ultimately, whatever it is, ultimately it has to result in change in actions or behavior or our habits. Until and unless those change, it won't help. So for that to change, put your plan into action. Very important. So again, it's so profound. I'm going to repeat this last few slides before we complete. It's not the things that happen in life that drive our emotions and behaviors. but it is the way we perceive those things and the way we believe those things is what affects our emotions and behavior. So to conclude, we started with this slide, mind, body, and behavior, very close connection. So having just positive thoughts are not enough. Those positive thoughts have to be followed by positive feelings. Again, just having positive thoughts and positive feelings are not going to be enough. They need to be followed by positive actions. Then only we will be able to make long-lasting changes in our behavior, in our the structure and function of the brain. So there are some tools, more tools than just mindfulness and then CBT. I'll just go through this. Any type of meditation, doing yoga, that also helps as a rewiring tool. Progressive muscle relaxation and type of meditation. Mindful breathing, mindfulness technique. Visualization, meditation. And importantly, developing an attitude of gratitude. For this, if you make this as an exercise, keep a separate book and try and write 3 things you are grateful for every day. Try and write 3 new things that you are grateful for every day. Sit at the same place at the same time and write in a book 3 things you're grateful for. You can see wonders happening. If you just say thank you, that may not be enough. When we actually put it in writing, magic happens. There will be long-lasting changes. So look after your health and wellness. We all started because of understanding our health and wellness. And we said we are focusing on self-management, right? So what we have covered today is physical activity. Exercise is very important. And we need to be emotionally well, we need to be in the present moment. And how? In a mindful way. Being in the present moment and being negative again will not help. Just awareness is not going to be helpful. We need to be in a mindful way in the present moment. And we need to convert our difficult emotions to healing emotions through cognitive behavior training, right? And finally, I said, I'm going to give you a mathematical way of overcoming suffering. It's very powerful. If we just understand this, it makes so much sense for all of us because it's very simple math. We can even teach our young kids. If they know multiplication, the rules of multiplication, that's enough. Because the formula for this is, we know pain is inevitable. Physical pain is inevitable. That mental pain, because of the physical pain, is what we call suffering. That is optional. How? Suffering is nothing but pain, the physical pain, times the resistance to the pain, which will lead us to suffering. If we just accept the pain as it is and do whatever it needs to be done to take care of the pain. Sometimes it is rest. Sometimes it is taking some medicine. Sometimes something else, whatever it is, we need to figure that one out. Rather than resisting the pain, accept the pain. When you accept, there is no resistance, right? So make resistance 0. So anything multiplied by 0, what happens? 0. Pain remains. There is no resistance, so there is no suffering. And whatever that pain is, this is how I was able to speak for 6 or 7 hours in spite of the migraine headache, because I didn't resist, just accepted. With the pain, I was able to focus. Not always, but it is possible to train ourselves. The reason I give myself the example of myself is, if I can do it, others can do it. Because this is science.
rather it is also can be said that because of the passion.
That helps. That's all. But it's not just with passion. The underlying thing is I'm not resisting that. Earlier also I had a lot of passion towards work.
Pain is there. So out of helplessness I may do, or out of passion I may do.
Yeah, but I'm going a little bit beyond that. Even without passion also, but without being helpless, one can do.
I could say that in a practical way, you solve anxiety because the thing was a depression or anxiety to take the middle part of it. Because you had the migraine, you're thinking, I'm going to do this presentation properly. I'm going to do that.
No, you cannot even, you have not had migraine headaches. You don't think about it. At that moment, it is so intense. And then, sorry, by being dramatic, when you have migraine, you also start throwing up. In the middle, I would go out. Different symptoms, not everybody. I would go out, nobody would know. I would throw up and come back and then talk.
Yes, exactly.
It is possible to do that. But we have to train. That is because you putting into practice. It has taken me years, but for others, it doesn't have to take years because this is not just textbook knowledge. If anybody feels, if somebody has done it, I can also do it kind of a thing because this is science. It is reproducible. It doesn't have to take, if you truly believe in it, the time factor of training can come down. That is what, for all of us, many of our gurus and rishis, they have taken eons, years to show us a path to do this type of training, mind training, right? All we need to do is to believe with conviction, not blind faith. Question as much as you want, and then put it into practice with conviction. It won't take as much time. And as you said, Swamiji, with passion. And if you love what you're doing, this is another thing. And if you love your guru, you will be able to learn even quicker. Or love anything that you're learning, even if you don't have a guru, if you love that subject, yes, yeah, Stonecutter, more than loving, he related himself to a big, higher cause. Yeah, a bigger picture and a higher cause. Here, I'm not even saying that. You just love the subject and then you'll be able to learn quickly.
I think what we are trying to do is like understand the resistance part of it. Why the resistance? The resistance could be of many reasons, right? One is, I think mostly like what Shania was saying sometime back, why me? When the pain comes, when we are suffering, or like there is some, illness or something that we are going through, why me? And then you just want to get out of that pain quickly and, be your active self always. And then you're not able to, and that just makes it more,
true.
It leads to suffering. On
Absolutely.
top of pain, you are like, why I'm having this, what is going to be, and that part of anxiety also comes, isn't it?
Why does that happen? If we ask why 5 times, all of us will come to the same answer. Why? That's fine. Why me? Why does that question come? Let's take an answer. I'm asking you, why does that question come? Why me?
Why me?
Why does that come?
It's comparison with others.
Why does that comparison come?
I think I'm special.
Why should we feel?
Yeah.
Okay, why does that happen?
It might be guilt, or is it something that I did wrong?
What is guilt? Why do we get guilt? Sometimes it might take more than 5 whys, but no, you're getting there.
So come to the source.
What is that? Why? It's not the source. We talk about the absolute source. This is the source for our ignorance. What is this? Why?
It's because
Yeah,
of the
why?
infinite thoughts that we
Huh?
have within ourselves.
What?
Because of the thoughts that we have.
What
within
kind of
ourselves.
thoughts? Why those
And,
thoughts?
and
Instead of ants, the negativity bias, which is innate within all of us. Only through knowledge can we come out of it.
Yes, we feel that it is a part of life. It is a part and parcel of our life.
It is that keeps us very successful, not just survival mode, also very successful. We might be so successful, but we may not be evolving according to this definition. So this negativity bias or any other type of other cognitive biases, many cognitive biases are there. I have clubbed it all together as just negativity bias. So many cognitive biases. These cognitive biases are what prevent us to evolve.
for example,
I can give you a book. There are, I think, 120 that have been listed. I can give you our YouTube link. You can go through.
yes,
But you have said you cover about ego being an illness.
Not necessarily an enemy. We can make that as a friend. Yesterday we talked about Pakka Ami, Kacha Ami. We need to ripen the ego, then it becomes our friend.
multitasking.
Yes. Very easy. Now I'll just make it really quick. You'll be able to get it. When do we do multitasking? We are cooking and we are on the phone, and then the doorbell rings, and then we ask our 8-year-old to open the door, right? 3 things at the same time. Cooking, we do it in a mechanical manner. We don't need too much attention there. We can do multitasking. Phone, we are focusing on the conversation. By then a little distraction, momentary distraction, which is give instructions and we go back to our phone. Same thing with driving. Driving, we do it mechanically. Our mind is elsewhere thinking. So in a cognitive manner, we can only do one thing at a time. Using the higher center of the brain. The other mechanical things,
So the
habitual.
lower center does all these things and the higher center.
Same thing by doing japa.
So when you are asking us to be in the now, here and the now, so which center do we use? The higher center?
Higher center. That makes us human. By using more and more of higher center, we can evolve. But just using higher center is not going to be enough. We need to combine with the proper feelings and emotions. Widen the wise mind. We have to keep connecting the dots. I've given in different ways. Now, once we keep going deeper and deeper, we will be able to connect the dots. So connecting the dots only can happen with these kinds of questions.
So we can.
I cannot just come up with a thing and then keep connecting the dots. You will not know that is connecting the dots until and then the question comes from within. It won't.
So will you say that if we are multitasking, we are actually is it working for being in present tense or is bad for being in the present tense?
Neither. Value neutral. Make it value neutral.
Yes.
Because we cannot be just doing one thing. It's not efficient, especially for women, especially with kids, especially we have to be giving instructions, cooking, driving, and then telling the kids where things are.
Okay, so
And telling the husband not to forget to take this, all of that.
we can
But
carry on with multitasking. It is not bad.
I don't want to, don't make any judgments. We cannot do without it. Be value neutral and then but you have to know you're multitasking. When you have to focus, that's one-pointedness. We know when we have to be the one-pointed, right? If you have ever made the sweet, some kind of burfi, we know the last few moments we cannot. We want to answer the phone, nothing.
Yeah.
That is one-pointedness. We know when we need to do.
Then you say multitasking is against the concentration.
That's why I was wondering.
Yes and no, it's not, that's why I don't want to put any value to that. At that moment, for a fraction of a moment, you're focusing on that, but that focus jumps from one to another, but that is not distraction, because we are being efficient with that. Yeah, one of the theories is you can only focus one thing at a time. Whenever we say focus, it's the higher center, it's the conscious mind, that you can only do one thing at a time. While you're focusing mechanically, you can be doing many things. You don't have to put attention to that.
When you
have the capability, you take advantage of it.
Yeah, what I'm saying. People who have attention deficit disorder, they cannot. Not just kids, there are many adults that I see, you can see that they have ADHD. Purposely I'm labeling. That is not what it is. Women, because out of necessity, they become so adept at it because of practicing, again, consistency. Abhyasa, you have to do it. Okay. Ultimately, you have to put it into actions. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. We probably are at the time to conclude, but we wish to thank Dr. Usha ji. Yeah, on the dot with all the passionate questions and discussions that we all had here. So anyone else there, any other question, or you want to express your thoughts before we conclude? All right, okay. So thank you all, everybody here. Thank you, Swamiji, for facilitating and organizing these sessions.